This is a very popular subject these days in Central and Eastern Europe, and actually in the whole European Union, that West European countries are kind of, I would say, kind of like jealous, and they see China as a competitor, getting more and more influence in Central and Eastern European countries. It's simply because the Central and Eastern European economies are very much dependent on Western Europe, very much dependent on the European Union, and especially dependent on the German economy. And China getting more and more influence economically in this region would probably result a less influence of Germany and the other West European countries. But as a matter of fact, currently this is not a real threat, because currently there's still a lot more Chinese activities in Western Europe than in Eastern Europe. Well, let me just tell you an example. If you count all the Chinese investments which flowed into the European Union in the last 6 years, 95% of them are in the UK, Germany, France, Italy, and only 5% is in the Central and Eastern part of Europe. On the other hand, the Central and Eastern European economies are really dependent on the German and on the Western European economies. But they also welcome investments from other countries, from China, from probably even Russia, and from other countries too. These economies, the Central and Eastern European economies, are as open for foreign investments from China as they are open from Germany or the United States or wherever.
You talked about Germany and the fears there. What about Russia too? Because obviously it's a neighbor, typically over the last couple of hundred years at least, a sphere of influence for Moscow. Is there some potential tensions as China comes into the region with investment?
I don't feel any tensions, actually. You can see in the region that Russia has probably a little more influence than the last 10 years. Russia has certain big investment projects in Central and Eastern Europe, but Russia is still not a very big player in these economies. I don't think that China is considering Russia as a competitor in Central and Eastern Europe. First of all, because Chinese investments are not that big. Secondly, the biggest influence in this region is Western Europe. So Russia is still not that strong player. I don't see any tensions actually around Russia.
So what about the future? Obviously, we're now at 17+1 with Greece officially joining. Can you see Chinese investment ramping up? And you're right to say it's at pretty low levels right now, but there is a lot of hope from Belarus to all over the region. People setting up new investments, new free trade zones. You think that this is something that's going to be around for a long while?
There are very little amount of Chinese investments in Central and Eastern Europe. So as some people say, there's a lot of hope, and there's a lot of chance, there's a lot of possibilities. But what I personally think is that China is pushing infrastructure investment deals in the region. That would only be successful in the countries which are not yet European Union members. And within European Union member states, if China will start greenfield investments and set up manufacturing and logistics centers, that could change the situation, and that could bring in more Chinese capital. But as a matter of fact, we do not really see China doing that. China is acquiring companies in mostly Western Europe, doing brownfield investments mostly. Greenfield is not the Chinese style, and there's not much companies to acquire in Central and Eastern Europe. So if China doesn't change the investment policy, then I don't think that the change will be quite significant.